I'm just a research fellow joining the team at the University of Western Australia, working remotely from Brisbane. So this is my second time coming to Perth. So I'm working on this project, which is a project level environmental economic accounting for coastal wetlands restoration areas. So we will go through, actually, it's not only me, Tafesse will also continue the presentation. So we'll go through this content. We'll have a look at some background information and the scope of the study. And then in terms of the method, we'll elaborate on what the case study areas are. We'll show you about the framework. The CI framework, we're a little bit extending that, including total environmental valuation framework. And we'll look into data. There is some challenges there. We'll explain that. And we'll show you some results on physical and monetary accounts for recreational services, because that's where we are involved in this project, including welfare measures as alternative approach. And then we'll have a reflection on preparing a guide to conduct project level environmental accounting for coastal wetlands restoration sites. So just, as I said, to give some background information, as you all know, coastal wetlands, they support different ecosystem services, including cultural and recreational services. They play a significant role in recreation, specifically in Australia. For example, according to Moore, about 4.2 million Australians participate in recreational fishing alone. And these wetlands are one of the most heavily used and degraded ecosystems. So because of that, there are a lot of efforts in restoring into somehow their natural status. And this project is designed to assess the benefit of that restoration. So this particular project is a very big project. It's funded by the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water. It's a little bit longer acronym. The formerly AARES, the Commonwealth Department. And this research is led by Deakin University. So the main purpose is, as I said, to undertake environmental economic accounting, but also to develop a guideline to undertake similar assessment for restored wetlands or any restoration areas, but this one for coastal wetlands. So the team, University of Western Australia, is engaged in developing environmental economic accounting for recreational services. Basically, we identified it's only recreational fishing and birdwatching, which is mostly applicable for the two case study areas. But we also kind of help or assess the valuation methods, the monetary valuation methods used in other sections. There are other ecosystem services which are being evaluated in the project. And we are also contributing to the preparation of the guide. So that is the scope and case study areas. We are considering two case study areas. One is Hunter River Estuary on the Tomago restoration site, which is close to Newcastle. The Hunter River Estuary supports a lot of estuary wetlands, and it includes saltmarsh and mangroves. Sorry, and Tomago is part of that. It is about 450 hectares, and it is within, or it's part of the Ramsar protected wetland. And the restoration for this particular wetland starts in 2006, 2007. And that restoration has improved a lot of the ecosystem services and the services like habitats and the service. For example, the diversity and abundance of birds, water birds has increased, but so far there's no lot of data about the recreational activities. But it's known that it has improved the quality of the ecosystem. Here we are just showing the process of restoration. It starts. It has 3 stages, as those people who are working on restoration told us. It has 3 phases. The first phase starts in 2006 and continues up to 2010, including the conception and also monitoring activities. And stage 2, it just as you can see from there, it covers different, just extends the area of restoration and the activities, the restoration activities. So it continues until 2015. And the other case study area is East Trinity Inlet. This one is in Queensland, next to Cairns. It's also a big restoration site. It covers about 740 hectares of land, and it supports the ecosystem and nursery services. And the problem is similar. I didn't mention that what the problem was in Tomago. It's drainage of the inland water for pasture land for Tomago, but in this case it's drained to produce sugarcane. But that has led to a problem that because it reduces the water level and it creates acid sulfides, acid side, and it degrades the natural area there, especially the mangroves, as you can see from the lower part of the map. I think this shows the days of mangroves in this particular location. So the problem more or less is the same, even though the land was used for different purposes. Here, the big problem is acids, but in Tomago, it's just the quality of the wetland was reduced. So in East Trinity, the restoration starts after the Queensland government purchases the land just for the aim of restoring the wetland in 2000, and restoration starts just immediately in 2001. And yeah, the restoration has improved a lot. They used a mechanism so-called, sorry, the latte, which was the lime-assisted tidal exchange, something like that. We didn't know about the process, but that has the effect of just improving the quality of mangroves and other ecosystems. And there are a lot of evidence that the species restoration in Abanda has improved. So coming to the system of environmental, the CIA framework, or the system of environmental economic accounting, the ecosystem accounting framework. It is one of the frameworks, as you may know. There is a central framework, which is a thematic area of accounting, but this is ecosystem accounting. So it's just, I took the phrase from the CR document as of 2021. It is an integrated, spatial-based integrated statistical framework to organize physical and economic data about the ecosystems and the ecosystem extent, measuring the ecosystem services, tracking the changes. I think that's one of the uses of the CR framework, and to link that information to the measures of the economic and human activity. So just we track the impact of the humans or the economic system into the environment. That's its purpose. So the focus is, I mean, doing environmental economic accounting is just to make visible the contribution of nature to the economy. That was a long-standing criticism of the system of national accounts. So environmental economic accounting is just seen as complements the system of national accounting. And actually, it applies the concept of exchange values as a standard economic valuation framework from the system of national accounts. And it uses custom services should be linked to beneficiaries. That means it focuses on using use values, and that should be measured using exchange values. But here, especially our engagement in this project helps us just to extend that. We are claiming that non-use values should be also part of the SIA, and lately we have been recognized that the SIA also can extend including welfare values for non-use values. So it follows the same accounting principle as a 2018 System of National Accounts framework in such a way. We have the same structure of, for example, the use and the supply and use tables as it is in the System of National Accounts. I don't know if I'm very fast. You can just. Okay, so the SIA framework it's just includes 5 interlinked. It covers 5 interlinked accounts divided into 2: the asset account or the stock account and the flow account, both to be measured in both physically and in monetary units. So the main types are the stock account. That means that's a natural capital account. It's about including extent and conditions, and the flow account, which includes only ecosystem services. So we are contributing or we are just doing ecosystem services account. But in the project, it all is covered. There is extent account, condition account, and then the ecosystem services. So we are including the total economic valuation framework because, as I said, we are also suggesting to use welfare measures both for recreational services and including existence values in this project, and we will also suggest for developing the guide. So that's why we just present this framework as an alternative to the system of environmental economic accounting framework. So in terms of data, as I said, we are using both of the environmental economic accounting and welfare values. But anyways, there is a limitation in terms of data. There is no because we are conducting the EA for recreational services. There is no data. There is no primary data for recreational fishing or bird watching in specific locations. Not only that, there is no secondary data from surveys. There is, for example, statewide surveys for recreational fishing, nationwide or statewide, but that cannot be converted into the specific location. So just we try to bring some data following some procedures. So we use some statewide recreational fishing surveys and literature review, basically to get some data for the physical account and monetary valuation. Not only that, we also used some anecdotal evidence for the quantities or for the visitation frequencies in the case study areas. So in terms of recreational fishing, for the physical account, because the accounts are based on the number of people, how many people are fishing, and just for monetary, the monetary account will be based on the physical account. So we need a physical account. So in the Tomago case for recreational fishing, we followed a secondary approach, which is based on the contribution of ecosystem services, we are undertaking some conversion factors of the statewide available catch and efforts into what the contribution of the site in terms of fish productivity based on some biological modeling data. So we adopt the conversion factors from studying using the concept of stable isotopes. I'm not sure if I well understand what that is, but basically it's just tracking how much the ecosystem services were contributing. I mean, the ecosystems like mangroves and saltmarsh are contributing to fish biomass or fish productivity, and then just track as the fish weight or something, the catch is from that area. And the catch and deferred, as I said, is based on the statewide surveys. In this case, Tomago is in New South Wales, so getting data from the Department of Primary Industries based on the survey in 2019-20. This is the data that we use for the conversion. We have catch efforts for identified 6 types of fish, and we have the total effort and the contribution that what I was saying about the stable isotopes is these are coefficients. That means how much is a mangrove contributed to, for example, yellow bream. It's around 0.3. Saltmarsh is the same 0.3, and there is also a spatial partitioning. Not sure that I understand that as well, but it takes how much the spatial diversity is contributed to that typical species. So we have the contribution or the coefficients for the contribution for 3 of the species, and we extrapolate the average values of the contribution for the others to come up with how much is the Tomago contributed to the catch and efforts at the Hunter River Estuary. So we use this simplified formula to come up with some number, which is the effort at the Tomago site, or the effort that's contributed from the Tomago River, and we are taking the effort to catch coefficient based on the previous data, and then the proportion of the ecosystem type, like how much is the mangrove area compared to the mangrove area at Hunter River Estuary, and the same how much is a Tomago saltmarsh compared to the area of saltmarsh in Hunter River Estuary. That's just to consider the area. And C is the catch at Hunter River Estuary, and beta is the coefficient of contribution, as I said previously, for each species. So that's just multiplication, and we sum for the total catch and total effort.
So just to add in, so as part of the project, there's about 6 different teams doing all the ecology work.
Yeah.
As part of each of these, and one of them is coming out of the Department of Fisheries, who did the isotope analysis so they could work out commercial fishing contribution.
Exactly. Yeah.
And basically, we just said, do you reckon that would be a good way of picking up the recreational fishing? Because we've got no survey. They said yes. So all of that background work's been done by the Fisheries Department.
Exactly.
For the commercial fishing, and we're just basically free riding on their estimates to better convert them to get the rec fishing contribution.
Yeah,
that's where it's coming from in terms of all the background stuff. It's specific for the project, so not by us.
So
exactly.
They're taking samples of fish and working out what the distribution of isotopes is. Is that
yes.
Right? So,
yeah, for different species, they are using this methodology for the commercial fishery. I think they used a lot. I have seen studies coming from them.
Yeah. So if they spend all their time in the mangrove, they'll have one characteristic in terms of isotopes. If they spend all their time
Yeah,
somewhere else, they have a different characteristic.
exactly.
Yeah. They already estimated the economic value for commercial, for fish, which are important for commercial fisheries.
Yeah.
So they just do these stable isotope techniques like carbon and nitrogen in order to trace the origin of food that contribute to the biomass of those specific fish species that are listed over here. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And the rest is just, I mean, for bird watching, we didn't have any other data to track like this or any other secondary information. So we get just anecdotal evidence from those who are researching in the area, who knows best. The same for East Trinity. We don't have any data for recreational fishing and bird watching posts, so our data is based on just key informants. So yeah, for example, for bird watching in Tomago, they recommend us to use around 15 to 20 people per month. I mean, they know the area and they have, I think they observe people watching birds, and I think just say we hope that's that's a data which is proximity to the area, I think, because it's a small area and 15 people per month could be a good approximation. So we take 17 to come up with a physical number and 2,204 annually. The same for East Trinity. For fishing, they recommend us to use 20 to 30 fishers per day and 10 to 20 bird observers per month. So our accounting is based on these estimates, taking the median value 20 to 15 fishers per day. That becomes 9,125 fishers per annum for East Trinity and 180 bird observers per annum. For Tomago, 219 fishing trips, because we changed the fishing days into trips. That's why we report both, because our monetary values are in trips. That then we convert that fishing days efforts into trips. That's why we report both. And 204 bird observers. Yeah, I think then Tafesse can continue from here. Thank you. Yeah, excellent.
Okay, thank you, Fitalew. We also looked at how we can get data for economic values of those selected ecosystem services. And what we did is, because we are not able to collect primary data in order to do economic analysis, and what we did is we did extensive search of literature related to recreational fishing and bird watching using key search terms, and with series of screening, we came up with 13 relevant studies for recreational fishing and for bird watching. And among these, based on the site-specific characteristic, whether that fits to our context for the case study areas, we selected some of them. We selected the most relevant ones that fits to the context, site characteristics, and the purpose of the visit and the type of ecosystem service they valued. And we have 3 studies for expenditure-based literature studies. So basically, expenditure-based is the recommended one for valuation of the recreational services according to SIA. That is just to approximate. It's not just a perfect one, but there are preferred methods which are have hierarchy in terms of tier 1, 2, 3. So for exchange value, we approximate using the expenditure-based survey. So these studies, which are listed here, the first one, McLaughlin and Pepperham, 2013. This is a study which was conducted in New South Wales, and we took this value in order to estimate the value of the recreational fishing value at the site after adjusting by CPI. And for ETI, for East Trinity Inlet, for recreational fishing, we used another study from Queensland, which used statewide recreational fishing survey data. And basically, we used the Cairns subpopulation in order to approximate for East Trinity Inlet. And the value for that expenditure data was, after adjustment with CPI, 20.5. For both case studies, we use the same value for birdwatching, which was based on National Surveys study by Stephen, which is a recent study. And this is a data by birdwatchers from different states to their sites. So, as Fitalew said, the other contribution, our contribution to the project was in order to also include the welfare values to the values of this restoration benefit. And for that, we also did extensive literature search, and we found relevant papers in order to do a value benefit transfer. And for that, we used, for recreational fishing, as I said before, we used a site-specific or a relevant study in order to transfer the value into our context. And we used two studies for each, one for each of the case study areas, for Tomago and ETI, and that was adjusted accordingly. For birdwatching, we used also another consumer surplus study, which is also the value is adjusted, and we use that in order to estimate the value for the value of recreational services at the sites. So with those data, like we have the physical account from the what that was explained in the methods section, and we established this physical account, and the physical account has two big columns: economic unit and ecosystem by ecosystem type. Because for recreational services, it's difficult to attribute to each specific ecosystem type, but we tried our best in order to attribute these services to at least saltmarsh and to mangrove. So as you can see from here, when we disaggregate using conversion factor, we have 1.3 for trips per annum and 298, which is in total 299. And for recreational fishing, that is supply for use. That is distributed among beneficiaries. So in this case, our beneficiaries are householders. So for householders, we have this value in total. And for birdwatching, still the beneficiaries are householders. So we have this account. So for the monetary account, we have the data from the physical account, and we have the data from the literature, and we calculated how much is the contribution, the total ecosystem service. And based on our calculation, we have 157 for mangrove and over 36,000 for saltmarsh. In total, $36,200 per annum. And that when we see that in terms of who is benefiting, still the households are the beneficiaries in this case. So the basic categories for this account are economic units and ecosystem, how much the contribution of ecosystem and who is benefiting. So this is for birdwatching, which is about 20,000. For East Trinity, we use the same approach, but in this case, we have the we don't have saltmarsh, we don't have mangroves separated or disaggregated from the whole study area, but for the whole study area, we have this physical account, which is 9,125 for it and 180 for bird watching. So similarly, we estimated the economic values, and that's total, the contribution of the ecosystem in total is nearly 188,000, and for that of for contribution of bird watching by the restoration site was about 18,000. So when it comes to the who is benefiting, here also we have the households who are the beneficiaries, and that benefit transfer is the same as that of the supply by the ecosystem, which is 187,000 and 18,000 for recreational fishing and bird watching, respectively. So, having said this, we wanted just to give you a highlight on the overall summary of tables from the project, where from the draft report, and you can have a rough, you can have an overview of the contribution of the different ecosystem services that were considered in the project, and where our contribution, where our ecosystem services are. So this is just what I said, as I said before. Summary of the whole values for restoration site at Tomago. For East Trinity, the same thing. So this is just a summary of the ecosystem service values for because of the restoration project for East Trinity, and among the valued ecosystem services, cultural services or recreational services are among them. And for cultural services, in this case, we used we have values for exchange based on exchange value, and we have values based on welfare value, and we have also values for other non-use benefit, non-use values, which are mainly existence values. So this is the summary. So through this process, we have had so many challenges. Those are mainly because of lack of data, which is specific to the restoration site. We can attribute all those kind of benefits, whether it is because of that restoration activity, really. So for most visitation, we didn't get any primary data, and the secondary data is even available at large spatial scale. And there is also no data about social demographics to have a precise correction or transfer of those values from the literature. And as a result, we relied on assumptions, so many assumptions. One is just based on anecdotal evidence, who are familiar or who have been working in that area, or who are living in that area. So no locally relevant valuation studies exist. So we try to be much more close to an estimated value for the recreational services and existence values based on what is available in the literature. On the other hand, this provided us an opportunity to see things in a positive way, where we are able to report both exchange and welfare values, in which welfare values were not the focus of the CR at all. So, and we illustrate, we that is our major contribution in that context. The reports include also estimates of existence value. So that is also the contribution, that also counts to our contribution. So what we can say is, given resources are available for site level primary data collection, it is possible to do a more kind of accurate estimation of the benefits of restoration for a given natural asset like coastal wetlands. So the guide provides advice on this, depending on what is the objective of the investigator or the stakeholder to do the evaluation because of the benefit of the project. So this is just the framework. So basically, what do you want to do, and what tool is relevant to do based on the purpose, and what value concept is used. So this is just a summary that we are hoping that will go to the overall guide for environmental economic accounting that considers coastal wetlands. And this is also, it looks like the summary of what we did in our for valuing the benefits of restoration. So it is revolving around exchange versus welfare values. So this is also the other contributions that we made in order to propose there is an alternative method like welfare values, not only exchange values, if we want to do valuation of the restoration project. It's not only here. As I said, this is also a kind of summary of all the ecosystem services that are considered in the project, in the bigger project. I think that is it. So I think we missed our thank you slide. Thank you. That is it. So if you have questions, you are welcome. Yes, Matt. Yes.
That was really interesting. Thank you. So I guess one of the interesting things about your EEA assessment is that it's on a specific project, and so you're kind of operating at the margin to some extent. Like you want to know the marginal change in natural capital.
Yeah.
Can you reflect a bit on, because my understanding is that the CA guidelines are kind of more about not the margin necessarily, but tracking over time. Was there some challenge in kind of making that work, or can you reflect on how hard that was to make it work at the margin?
Yes, I think we forgot, and Fitalew will add more on that. We were supposed to do that change by considering two accounts, pre-restoration and post-restoration. Exactly. For pre-restoration, we had so much detailed discussion about what to do with the pre-restoration, and finally, what the conclusion was: pre-restoration, both sites were degraded, and they were not able to deliver those ecosystem services to the beneficiaries. And we consider this as entirely the benefits that comes after the restoration.
It went from nothing to something.
Yes, from nothing to something. Yeah, but I think other ecosystem services did.
For us, we do just post because we don't have any data. For example, if we are using the conversion factors, we have extents, but we don't know how much recreation was there at that time. So we are just assuming it's degraded and there is no recreational fishing or bird watching. But in terms of the extent, I think they take for the entire period of restoration. Where was the summary? Yeah. For example, here, for carbon abatement, they're considering analysis period. That means from pre-restoration to post-restoration. And extended condition accounts, they have, because they are spatial data, they have the extent pre-restoration and post-restoration, or just recently. Yeah.
Did you have to like subtract out the previous land uses, or like, I don't know?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much detail it is, but just they have that spatial kind of information.
So what we haven't done, I haven't been asked to, and therefore we won't, is think about the change in there's been a loss of agricultural land. So the agricultural land accounts in some sense been modified, say, well, as a result of restoration. Agricultural services have gone. The only good reason for not including that is that, well, for the East Trinity one, it was they tried to put it into sugarcane, and it failed completely as it was just acid soils and just it couldn't grow anything. So there actually at that point there was no agricultural value. The pasture land was probably pretty minimal. So I suppose there should be an account which says you transfer the asset from one state to another in terms of the loss of the agricultural value to offset the gains that are getting from the environmental ones. But I don't think anybody's really suggested that should happen.
Yeah, I can see why you didn't for the case studies, but as a guide, you know,
Possibly, yeah. You should probably go back and think about that.
And hopefully, if they are just tracking the change, if they want to track the changes, at least we have what we are thinking is this could be the initial. Then if they are doing it next year or just some year, there is some kind of reference.
Julian, can you unmute yourself? Yeah, okay. Go on, please.
Sorry. Do you want me to just say what I said?
Yeah.
I was just concerned at a sort of much broader, almost political level about the relationship between the cost information. Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
The cost information that you were deriving, the welfare benefits and so on, and the costs of actually doing the remediation process, because I have seen in what has now become too long a life looking at these economically, that it starts like this, and then you get a neoliberal response to this, which says that this is in fact the right way, and then you get a huge amount of money pushed into this. This becomes the right way to evaluate wetland restoration or otherwise, and so it becomes a user pay exercise, and that might distort and change the way that governments looked at restoration projects. So I'm sort of raising the question about the relationship between this work and the costing of the actual wetland restoration process, and how the two work together. I mean, I'm sure, Tafesse, you wouldn't want, you know, just the benefits to fisheries to be the deciding characteristics of whether people restored wetlands or otherwise.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Shall I try to answer that?
Yeah.
So I think the department.
Can you hear? Sorry.
Yeah.
The department, I think, is keen for value stacking. And the person the department who's managing this basically is interested in identifying and accumulating all the values, very much so, and is seeing not as a way of using, as in they're using it to justify why the government should be spending more money to restore. So it wants to now, I heard a interesting how that translates through, but that's certainly the message that we're getting from her is that this is about increasingly trying to justify why restoring these ecosystems has a wide set of values, and wants to justify more money going into that process. The original program project was labelled as a blue carbon project, but actually the set of values is much wider than the carbon contribution. And they've actually become much more interested in including the welfare values so that we can, as in not into the accounts process, but into a parallel process so we can include the existence values and so on in it. So at the moment, we're getting quite a supportive view as to what we should view as values.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Could I just follow up by asking what the overall cost, just very roughly, of the actual remediation process here was? Do you have an idea? So I can get a feel about the comparison between what you got back and what the restoration cost was.
Yeah, what we present here is the restoration, which is adjusted to 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in East Trinity it's about 10 million.
Right. Okay.
Tomago,
yeah.
It's about 4 million, yeah. That's it for 10 years.
About 4 million. Okay. All right. Yeah. 40 million. Okay. I think it's a concern, though. I do think it's a concern. So long as it's additive, that's great. But when it becomes substituting, then I think it would be a worry.
Yeah.
I just have a question around existence values. Seem to be fairly small for Tomago and for the other site. I mean, one of those was Tomago's a Ramsar listed wetlands, isn't it?
Yes, it's.
You know, so then that leads me to ask the question: what's your population to determine these existence values? Because I might be persuaded to pay $10 a year.
Exactly, I think that's
for a Ramsar, even if it's across the other side of the country. I mean, it's 22,000 is.
Yeah. This is East Trinity actually.
A salary for part-time work at a coffee shop, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we just use a very conservative approach. We take very small values per unit, and also we are considering the population of close by areas. In the Tomago case, we are considering population of Newcastle, and for East Trinity, population of Cairns. Yeah.
So I think,
if not, in principle, it applies for at least for the.
You might want a sensitivity analysis on that. Because it can
exactly.
You know, Cairns is a internationally recognised tourist destination.
Yeah. It's one of
with remnant, you know, rainforest.
Yeah, I think that's maybe one option. Okay, thank you very much.